we're taking on something that's quite huge. And I've been involved in a lot of organizing environments. I was general counsel for economic affairs in Massachusetts, and I handled the legislative affairs for 6 different state agencies. And I've organized in grassroots groups in Occupy, and been in government for many years. And so I've done all these pieces of it, right? So I appreciate the scale of what we're contemplating, and it's quite big. But I also sense that with these kinds of things, you have to not just talk about them, you have to lead by example and sort of initiate and put in motion the visions that you have and work with the willing. And you just don't know how that will manifest ultimately, or how it will inspire others perhaps to, build bigger and similar models, or they might all converge at some point. And convergence is obviously the vision and the goal. So I think I've come to the decision over the last few days that we have to sort of do both. And part of it was Etel Higonot, and I don't know if Etel's with us today, but if she is, I want to give her a chance to chime in here. She's with Mighty Earth, but she's going to, I think, the Nature Conservancy, I forget which one. And she's quite expert in this movement and well-placed in the establishment to really appreciate, all the internal thinking. And I talked to her recently, and she was just very emphatic and very clear-minded about the fact that we needed to do this. We have to do it. The other groups might come along and they might participate. You just don't know. But if we want to move ahead, we should move ahead. And so, and I got an encouraging call from Catherine Skopik, of course, who always knows the right time to call and make sure I'm not wimping out on things as I contemplate the workload, which is quite vast. But it's also sort of fun, once you decide to do something like this, it's a logistical exercise, which is all organizing, phone calls and emails and meetings, et cetera. But then there's also, of course, a lot of substance to it. And in this case, these 2 avenues require a lot of substantive thought. And one is, what should a coalition of coalitions look like? And, I have a few thoughts that are always paramount in that. And I wrote those down. And then I looked up the co-op ideas, and they matched quite a bit. I was surprised to see. So, but to do this project, I think we'll need a committee to explore coalition options and structures, and look at the existing coalitions that exist and see whether some of them might have capacity to host, or whether we need to host. And, so basically explore this and come up with a model. For me, the key pieces of a model are transparency. Like, all of our organizing is transparent, and that's for a reason. We can't win this with a secret. We can't build a mass movement with insider organizing, in my opinion. And that's one of the biggest paradigm shifts for the existing frameworks, to make that leap into the public and that point, so we can assure transparency. Inclusiveness. Oh, it says my internet is unstable. If my internet gets bad, Greg, let me know and I'll go in the other room and plug it in. Inclusiveness. I'm sorry?
It's okay so far. It's a little jerky, but it's okay.
Okay. Just let me know if it gets bad.
Okay.
Inclusiveness. And this is to make everyone feel welcome at all times. And that's what this meeting is. We have 63 people here on an initial meeting to talk about planning. So inclusiveness, and I think that's critical too. We got to make everyone feel welcomed. There are so many incredible passions and capacity, and just I've never seen anything like it. The scale of the desire to help save the planet is huge and deep, and so we got to make a tent that welcomes everyone, and that comes with complications. Radical inclusivity is a difficult thing to manage, so we will need a process for managing difficult situations. We will need dispute resolution or mediation as a part of the culture in advance. then next thing is community on my list. And so we're creating community. And that's what I've learned through my community and the LGBT community, how important community is, and particularly on something like this. The last thing is autonomy. The next thing is autonomy, that we work together, but we retain our individual autonomy at all times. And every group does its own thing and everybody does their own thing. This is critical. It can't be a command control environment. I would never be able to stand it myself. And then the last piece I think is important is both and, that if somebody wants to do something, we all say, yeah, go do it. And then the other person, yeah, go do it. So you rally everyone's ideas. We can't all do everybody's ideas, but we can support everybody doing their ideas in some way or form. And most importantly, we just go into these conversations without creating conflict about, oh, my idea versus your idea. We can say, yeah, well, everybody do their ideas. And there are ways to have that work, but it's more of a philosophy and a state of mind. So there's a lot to this. There's democracy, which is another element of co-ops, the fact that people would vote. So these are some of the preliminary constructs that are that drive my organizing always. And so I just list them now, but that would be the conversation that the committee on this would undertake. And so if you're interested in that, Greg, I don't know if we can set up a poll today while we're at it, simple poll, but I should have mentioned this before. And the other big theme or thread of work is a comprehensive climate bill. And that is a whole nother journey. And these can be separate threads, which will come together, of course, ultimately. But the process for crafting a climate bill is in and of itself a fascinating journey to take, particularly to do it in an inclusive way. And so we'll put together a team for that. So if you've ever worked on a coalition drafting legislation together, please join that team. And that team will then be reaching out to organizations that do that. So we're both going to be doing this work a little bit ourselves, but we're also going to be liaisoning and reaching out to the organizations, in this movement and beyond that have capacity and trying to, build this at a higher level. So we would be like the grassroots infrastructure staff to bring in the bigger players, perhaps, and also create our own channel so that we know that the grassroots groups that are participating in this have a voice as well and are represented in whatever comes together. But drafting the comprehensive bill, there are a few examples. There's previous examples like the Waxman-Markey bill I've been told about. I haven't looked at that ever. There's the OFF Act. There's U.S. Climate Action Network has a set of specific policy guidelines called something inequitable. Oh, I forget, but I put it in the email, in one of the earlier emails. So there are materials out there in the works, and we would want to bring the parties who are drafting these things together. And Attell mentioned inviting the Saban Center, and Yale has a professor there and a big program there about climate law. And so we could recruit, legal teams and others. The legislative directors would hopefully be brought together from that committee. And we would have a conversation about what it would look like to craft a comprehensive bill and how we get there. So that's an exciting thing. I love working on that kind of project. I did it for the Brownfields bill once and for the Equality Act. And anyway, I think this is an exciting opportunity, and there's enough already in the works that we're definitely not starting from scratch. But it's a lot, it's a lot of reading and research. It's, it's serious commitment. And then, so, all right, those are the two big pieces as I see them. In addition to that, and Greg, if you could set up a poll to say, would you like to join, would you like to work on the coalition committee or the legislation committee?
Okay.
Coalition. And then also let's add, I don't know if it's the same poll, but let's do another poll for the adopted district, or maybe, and put adopted district on there too, if you could.
think I'll do separate questions with yes or no.
All right, that's great. Although you say that once we put one up, we can't take it down and we can't move the next one. So it might be better to put yes or no and do 4 questions in one if you could. Otherwise, we have to do them sequentially, but whatever you think best.
Okay.
So for people who are new to this, we also have a very developed faith team already well underway with lots of great participants in it and growing. And so that's another team that you, if you're a faith organization, you might want to be involved in. Gary Belkin's here today, and he wants to create a health team and lead that. And so again, these are not just, these are segueing beyond our own individual expertise, but into those and communities. And then we also have 2 big things already in the works for folks who are new. We have an adopted district program, and that's basically we're adopting all 435 congressional districts. It occurs to me with this move that we're making into coalition organizing, as we expand our own coalition. So they're like, the first 2 pieces I'm talking about are much bigger than just our little internal group, of course. And then within our group, which everyone's always welcome to join, we're an open network and very informal. And it seems to be the leaders of lots of groups all around the country. And we want to expand that. But I'm thinking for our adopted district, we generally, an organization adopts their congressional district and then goes after this bill package that we've assembled. I'll talk about that in a second. I was thinking it would be helpful in that organizing if we could have organizations, people affiliated with organizations ideally adopt each state so that we can start to get this a little bit more organized. 435 is a lot, obviously. So if we could do it by 50 states and get a small committee of 2 or 3 people on each state that could then work on finding the local groups in the congressional district. So if you're a great organizer in your state, when we have the poll put together, if adopted district would be the thing you would sign up for, and whether it's to adopt your congressional district or your state. And this is just to get the ball rolling in terms of building a ground game infrastructure. And we're working with a set of bills that we've collected that were drafted by all the main groups in this movement, with big coalitions behind them, a lot of them. And so there are 10 of those, and they really cover a diverse set of topics. And that was designed to give us something tangible to work on right away. So while we're dreaming of the big bill, we needed something we can organize around immediately. And that's these 10 bills. And there's like 4 or so more under review. And then there are others being passed, being filed. So as this landscape changes a little bit over the transition, we'll be revisiting that package. But as it is, it's still ready to roll for outreach now. And there's nothing, people are doing it all the time. And we have a whole team that works on this. And so we invite everyone who would like to join this team now to please let us know. And your work would be then to work on, another committee, really, essentially. And it would be to develop this adopted district or the state level, same thing, adopt a state, essentially, capacity, and to just grow that. And on the faith front, they'll be working on a parallel path to this. And all of us will be together. I'm sorry. No. All of us together will be mapping out the congressional districts and figuring out, so which faith communities have congregations in which districts, and which groups do we have in which districts, and then reaching out to those groups and saying, hi, would you like to work on this? So that's wonderful. So that would be fun. And I think that's going to be the ground game, for when we get these big bills drafted. And we just build it as an example. And eventually, hopefully more and more groups will choose to adopt congressional districts. And it's okay if there are multiple layers of this happening, it's fine. But our little mini coalitions by state or, by congressional district, we'll build them out ourselves with faith, with environmental groups, with legal community, with scientists, draw down and with some academic universities. And then of course, as the coalition starts to take shape, we can hand that work into the coalition, and they can start taking that kind of approach as they deem, best, making their own decisions then. And so that's the lay of the land. I mean, it's not too complicated, really. And the other piece that we have is our policy sector review teams. And this is actually going to become very important. They've been reviewing legislation. They've been reviewing the House Climate Crisis Select Committee's report and comparing it to our policy digest. And there are new ideas and pieces missing everywhere, which is exciting because it's a dynamic process. They've formed and they've been working very hard at this. So that's a nice foundation. I think in the bill drafting process, we may recreate a policy sector team approach. But for now, we have our own policy sector teams and we have a task ahead of us, and which is pretty serious. And that is to compile all the summaries really of what's missing from the various pieces of legislation and reports, and get that into some kind of shape that we can then send it out to the organizations that are behind those bills and contribute to that conversation now, because those bills are being rewritten, things are being considered. It's not make or break, because I really feel like the policy conversation is going to unfold as part of the legislative drafting process. And so we'll be revisiting all of these sector topic conversations again, and hopefully building sector teams that are, not just us, but the groups that are leading these different arenas would be leading their own conversation as to what policy they want in a comprehensive bill. So in environmental justice, we're a catalyst and an organizer. We're the facilitators of the convenings, but it would be convening the WEACs and NAACP and Climate Justice Alliance. And they are already convened in some respects, but we would broaden the tent as part of this coalition building and the drafting bill process, and hopefully have those voices at the table deciding what the process should look like up front, and then dealing with the policy considerations. And it's just good that we have our own base level of expertise and teams on that, so we can contribute to and plug in and sort of keep that information flowing. So as you know, Drawdown and MIT are both excited about creating a climate, what do we call it? A science advisory committee that would basically use their tools to determine the greenhouse gas impacts of proposed legislation. And that is huge in and of itself. And so I'll be following up with them to see about next steps. On that, Project Drawdown is having a big conference. And we'll relist the committees on January, I think it's the 4th through the 9th or something. But go to their website, projectdrawdown.org, and you'll see it. There's a fee for joining it. I'll see if I can get us some comps. But it's an exciting platform, and they invited us to participate, but I didn't respond fast enough, so now it's too late. But that's okay. They're on board for crafting this advisory committee. So you see their conference, and you know the extent of their connections, and you will see that we are in the right crowd for that conversation. And one other thing occurred to me while I was saying that, and I forgot already what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me. Oh, I know. The last piece of this puzzle really is what's happening now. And so I've been getting emails, people saying legislation is long-term, and I should sketch out the schedule, the timeline that in my mind and Atel sounded reasonable, that we could work. Let me sketch out that timeline and then go to the, well, first I'll do what I was about to say, and then I'll do the timeline. So people want to work on the administration and legislation that'll be going now, or whatever the movement is that's happening. And Senator Merkley agreed to, or offered to create a bicameral team that would report out every few weeks to the grassroots, to the movement at large, as to what the internal legislative strategy plans were. And so, we could formulate action and, engagement. Now, it is a full-time job to follow the bouncing ball of, an active legislative process or a push for administrative action. That's a lot of work. And I've done it in different moments, but you got to stay on top of everything, pay attention to everything. So I am personally not willing to do that this time for now, although I feel that there's a desire for that. So I never want to shut anything down, both and. So if there's a team of people who want to be on that, what's going on right now. And I think that we need to really ask the big groups and the coalitions to come up with a reporting out structure or, that rallying cry. But if there are a team of people here that feel passionately about that immediacy work and want to be part of that, we can create another team to work on that. But you're really going to have to manage yourselves. I'm not going to come to those meetings. And, then we'll have to figure out how to hook you up with the right channels of communication so that we get, actionable information. And we'll just create a space in our meetings for that kind of report out and to between the medium to long-term strategies of a legislative journey and the more immediate actions. And so, again, it's a workload thing. So last piece is on the timeline. I can't believe I'm rambling on this whole time. Now that we've decided to go down this crazy trail, it seems like, I think a reasonable timeline might be, again, it's like if we were to do it, it's much slower than if the inside team decided to do it. They could push a few buttons and flip a few switches and abracadabra, I think. So we're trying to do a hybrid, we're going to guide it and see if we can't get enough of them involved to, run with it faster, et cetera. But all of that aside, I think if we get going on this and form our committees, we'll want those committees to meet regularly. I'm thinking about Monday mornings. I want to bring this out of the nighttime and into the morning hours where our minds are fresher. We'll figure out the timing for those meetings to happen, but that we could pull together those two committees, the coalition and the bill drafting, and figure out the lay of the land now and get the right people in those conversations. And then by April, maybe a week before Earth Day, we could have this climate Congress that Center for Biological Diversity suggested. And by then we will have an outline of what a coalition of coalitions structure would look like. And we could put a set of proposals on the table to look at in terms of, the beginnings of a bill. Just because there's so much work already been done on that, at least in terms of the policy elements. And so I think that's a good goal, April. And then from there, we would be able to see the timeline by, this year for sure. If not, maybe by June or July, who knows how soon. But knowing that bill's chances are not really, about this year.
You probably should move.
And then next year we would, I see. All right. Let's see here. It's going to make everything go dark, and we'll probably have a bill this year. We have a coalition built by the end of the year that would be sort of unprecedented. And next year there would be a big push for the bill, and people would be electing, running races based on, Giovanni, I'm gonna have to come in here. Sorry, everybody, 1 second. There would be a whole set of midterm elections where the bill would be the litmus test. And by 2023, we could quite feasibly pass, major climate legislation, and maybe sooner, because we'll see what elements materialize out of these discussions over the next several months. And there could be components that could, be demanded earlier. And so you just really never know how the achievement of all the goals that we'll put in the package will unfold. But at least we'll all be fighting for the same thing, and we'll have it based on a scientific standard, so we'll know if it's going to be successful. And what's possible politically will change tremendously from that point on. As I've said before, the span and capacity of this movement is vast. And so all we just need to do is figure out what our shared demand is and then organize to go get it. And I think it'll be unstoppable. And I think we can write our own rules to save our planet. And we have to approach it with a sense of entitlement, that we are entitled to save our planet, that we don't have to ask anymore permission from anyone. We just have to figure out what we want and then go get it. And I don't like to set, dreams in motion like that. Giovanni's just fixing the lighting. But I, Pollyannishly, or without, I don't say things like this without believing them that they're possible. And it's just because of all of you all and all these groups, and I see the capacity that's out there and how close we are to unity on ideas, and how much willingness there is to unite. So anyway, that's the idea. I don't know how to even hear everybody's thoughts now. These are our core team meetings. So I don't usually do all this talking, but since this is a new beginning, we usually treat these as staff meetings. We're all staff in this group, and we divvy up, who's doing what and what projects we're working on, and take stock of that. So we're going to do some of that going forward here tonight. But in the meantime, I don't know, Craig, if you have the polls ready to roll, or
I have what I think you want. I ended up making 3 questions. Would you like to join the coalition committee? Would you like to join the legislation committee? And would you like to join the adopted district committee? You also mentioned this last piece. I don't know what you would want to call it.
current action, or
Current action.
or yeah, current action. But I had another thought for that. I forget what I called it somewhere else, but so all right, somebody wants to explain the committees again real quickly. One is a committee that's going to come up with a process to decide what the structure of a coalition of coalitions should be, and engagement with a bunch of groups to get consultation and bring them into that planning. That's
Todd, you called that last team the reporting out team.
Oh, reporting out team.
That may not be the name you want, but that is what you called it.
Let's call it well, we'll come up with an just current action.
Okay.
Current actions. Like that would be like administrative and current legislative action, and we'll come up with a better word for it. So anyway, the committees are the coalition committee, the legislative committee. Again, it's about processes and whatnot. It's not like we're going to be drafting ourselves or writing legislation. I hope not ever. But we're going to be guiding that process, sort of staffing that. And then the adopt a district or adopt your state. And then the immediate action.
Yeah, okay, that'll do.
Those are the
Yeah.
4 for now. And then of course we have the faith and all those, but you can get into those separately. Faith, a health team, and we have the policy sector teams, but I don't know that we're looking to grow those at the moment as much as finish up some work. But if you're interested in a policy sector team, keep that in mind, and we can do that. And another piece of this is we need to come up with a steering committee team, not steering committee in that, it's just for lack of better terminology at the minute, but like when we did the symposium, we had 4 o'clock meetings every Monday, and everyone who wanted to help work on the symposium came to that. So I feel like we need sort of an executive team. Giovanni's writing me. Okay, just stop, honey. I can't read what you're saying and think at the same time. We need an executive team of, like we had for the symposium. And so if anyone wants to, I don't know if we could just continue the symposium team, and you know, anyone who was on that, of course, would be welcome. And there are other folks who would like to join that. And, you know, this team would be sort of helping me make sure I don't go crazy, and helping to steer this work a little bit and schedule meetings with, like if we try to set up a whole series of executive director level meetings or follow-ups from the convergence, my head just starts to explode because I ended up doing all those emails because we wanted them to come from me. And the thought of being, you know, in that world again is scarier than everything else we're talking about to me. I'd rather so I just feel like we need some sort of core team that can handle executive level engagement and setting up of meetings and calls and, you know, that kind of thing. So if anyone is interested in that, just email me about that. And if anyone who was already on that role could let me know, is anyone going to raise their hand if anyone's still in that role that wants to do that? Shannon, Catherine, Carolyn,
Regina, I can't.
Regina, Merrill, anyone else?
um,
Pam N. Is anyone taking notes of this?
No, I'm not.
Carolyn, can you write these down? Let's do it. We'll start divvying up tasks now.
Excuse me, do you want us to mail this back to you? Well, this report, I mean, the choices we're making?
Oh, we're going to do it right now. Greg's going to put them in a poll that's going to come up here in a second.
Okay, can you start over with that list? So I've got Catherine.
Just raise your hand and I'll read them off again. Everybody. So Shannon, Catherine,
Regina.
Regina,
Yeah.
you, Pam N. Who else? Anyone else? Oh, there's Lavona raising her hand. All right, well, that's great. That'll get us started. So for that, and then we'll have to check in with Harriet and a few people who were on the team that aren't here. And if anyone's on behind the scenes, so go ahead, Greg, and put up the poll.
Is
Oh,
it
there's
still
one.
possible to talk at all?
Yeah, let's keep going, of course. So Tara,
I just wanted to quickly clarify, I believe that what you were talking about as far as Adopt a District State Committee would be some more people to help organize Adopt a District volunteers.
right, and particularly to do outreach to groups. Now we have like 1,000 local chapters of different groups that have signed up for the symposium, and we want to go through those, figure out which and contact them and invite them specifically, you know, so a whole outreach campaign to really grow that whole setup.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to clarify that for people that the Adopt a District State Committee is different from adopting your district. Fantastic if everybody adopts their district in addition to whatever else you're doing, but this is to help do exactly what Todd just said. Thanks.
And you don't have to vote no on these things. You can just vote yes. Because that way, I mean, it's only people who want to do it that we're going to, you know, draft into these things, of course. So you don't need to vote no. I don't know if that, I guess, I don't know if you have to vote no. I don't see how, I don't know how it
It
works.
doesn't matter one way or the other.
All right. So only 16. So we'll just have to see.
Could I just
We have
say,
enough to staff these committees.
I can't press submit. You know, I pressed yes, but I can't press submit, so I don't know what's wrong with
That's
it.
because
Down.
we have
There's
to-
one more question hiding down below, and then the submit button will.
you have,
No, I see the submit button. It's grayed out.
you have to answer all the questions either yes or no, or it will not submit.
Oh,
And there's 4 questions.
yeah,
Do we want our names on it? Should we put our names?
Your
your
name
names will be-
will know,
okay.
your vote will be connected to your name, so don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Are you
For
going to put it back?
scheduling these
Because a lot
meetings-
of us need to find it. What happened to it? It got off the screen. Greg, can you put it back? So a lot of us can't, huh?
It's active. It should be
It's
there
active.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Click
just,
polls on the bottom of your screen.
What? Oh, you got them, really?
mhm.
I don't see it. All right.
That's
I'll
okay.
just email you. Who cares?
That's fine too, Rachel. No worries. Everyone who, if anyone has problems, you can email us.
Of course.
So I don't know if we need to
Let's
talk
see.
about this. I mean, are there any,
Oh, here we go. Okay.
there's so many people on the call and I don't know how to get more feedback. So if you're in the call and you're in the chat, if you could go into the chat and just give us your feedback on this general approach. You know, do you think that are we proceeding with all of this? We see 36 out of 48 voting. That's great. Are there people who have a different vision of how
Do you
this?
want to, do you want to put us, do you want to put us in breakout? Do you want to put us,
Oh, that's an interesting question. If we could go into break, I don't think
do you
so. I
want to
think,
put us in breakout rooms?
I'd have to think about that. It's 7:45. I don't want to overtax everybody. You know, it's the holiday season. We're just trying to get the ball rolling today. I just want to, if anyone has thoughts that we're not, you know, that this is missing or that,
And then we can, the rooms can report back.
type them into the chat. Well, I'm sorry, what were you saying? People have CLs, so should committee to join my skill. I'm a writer. All right, well, we'll figure out tasks there'll be plenty of tasks for everybody. So in terms of the meeting schedule, I just like to touch base on this because this is the hardest thing to ever pull together. So if you're on one of these committees, I think I would like to do them back to back on Monday morning. So like maybe an hour in between. So like 10 to 11 and then 12 to 1 and 2 to 3, like that, something like that. So we have them all in one day. I wonder if Monday is going to be a work. So Greg.
Yeah.
It says we can share results. If I push that, will that, that just shows the,
Just shows it, but we're not gonna be able to know the details of that until I look at it later.
all right. So yeah, what do you have to push to make sure you download all the emails and all this?
I have that already.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And there are like, so if you're with a major, or if you're with any kind of organization, I don't know why I say that major, but if you're in these worlds already, where you're working in coalitions and you're drafting bills and you have thoughts on this journey that we're about to embark on, please don't hesitate to write me. I'm a little concerned about how I could talk to everyone at once, but we'll see how many people respond. And on these committee meetings, we'll have an opportunity, obviously, to dig into it. But if there are, you know, more broader conversations that you want to have or you want to provide input on, please don't hesitate, because we're really embarking on something huge now, and it's going to take everybody. So we got to figure out how to create this in a way that you all want it to be created.
Ty, can I just ask a question to Greg? Greg, do we get all of the people that are here right now? Do we have all their emails in one clump because they signed on to the meeting?
I can't tease those out because it just gives me a list of all the people who registered for the series, and I can't tease out the individuals in one meeting.
Okay, I was just wondering, how do we follow up with this particular group of people? Because there are so many great comments in the chat about specific things that people want to do. So I don't know.
We'll have the chat saved, and the names are connected to the chat. So
Okay.
I had to register anew for just this one meeting. I'm wondering if others did, and it called for my email address anew.
Well, if this is your first time coming to one of these.
No, it wasn't my first time.
Oh,
but it required me to register again. So
I wonder why. Who was that talking?
Nancy Gluck-Grunick, I'm just noting it in case at least there's some people may have had that experience today.
Yeah, you
And
never
therefore
know.
you have email addresses attached to us today.
Now, is Attell with us? I don't see Attell.
I've been searching for her. She hasn't been here.
All right. So, all right, well, we'll have Attell. So this also gives rise to the scheduling a little bit for our next few meetings. We had talked about having the carbon pricing conversation at the next meeting, but it's not quite ready. We've been collecting input on that. And I feel like we need to postpone that a little bit. Unless somebody else on the carbon policy sector team feels really strongly otherwise. And we had a little tussle on carbon pricing actually in session 3. So we know that it brings people to life, which is a good thing. But I think we seem to be embarking on this bigger organizing challenge. So,
hey Todd, this is Lynn. I'm on that team on carbon pricing, and I just feel like we're not making progress right now. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of information that's been posted. There's disagreements on some of it, but not all of it. But we're not really deciding anything. We're not really wrestling with it in a way to funnel down to how we feel and to make a report. So I don't know if that's important or not, but I think that's where we are. So unless we change what we're doing, we're not meeting. We're not going to be able to present to you and the other people a recommendation.
we're right. So just keep in mind, everybody, on these things, we're not really, we're information coordinators, right? As opposed to decision makers. And so the process so far is we invited everybody to give us questions on this topic through an open source process. We got like 50, we summarized them into 25. And that document, which I wanted to post actually, again, let me get at a full screen. The document to submit, I don't know if anyone else has it handy. I'll get it. Here it is. To submit answers to those 25 questions is going to be in the chat. And then, so here it comes, carbon pricing questions. And so the tasks for this are, we want to get those answers filled in, and then summarize the answers like we've done before, and then have Food and Water Watch and CCL and maybe some other groups that work on this issue a lot come and give us a full, hour and a half conversation about this topic. And that would give everyone a full briefing. And I think at that point, then we can start to see where people's opinions are landing, as opposed to having the team try to work these things out ourselves. That way we provide all the information. Lynn, does that sound all right? I mean, that's the same plan that we've had all along. I just want to make sure it's still resonating with you.
I understand what you're saying. I suppose I'm still confused. I really am. I'm not trying to be hard to get along with you. I'm just confused on how this funnels correctly into an answer that is the right answer. It just, okay. We're trying to get to the right answer. And quite frankly, the answer in this area is central. It is core. It is foundational to climate crisis policy being successful. It's core. It's not fringe. And so,
no, of course.
We got to do it correctly. That's all.
Right. Well, I understand how important it is, but I also understand how complicated it is. So it's a process of collecting information, collecting opinions, presenting the opinions back out to our team, and in open forums, and then we'll figure out how to poll people on where they feel. So
I'd like to say one more thing, and then I won't say anymore.
No, you're always welcome, Lynn. We're glad you're here.
The thing that seems to me, Todd, that's not quite recognized by our group here, and also some of the folks that came to the coalition, is that we cannot solve this problem unless greenhouse gases go down. They have to go down, and they have to go down steeply. Some folks that are opposed to legislation that does that do not recommend or offer a way to do that. They simply say, well, I don't like this, as opposed to saying, here's a way we can get there. But that's critical that we get there.
All right, Lynn, so I get you on this. Trust me, I understand it all, how complicated it is and the journey that we're on. I just think we need some more time. We're not going to ultimately decide this in our group. You know, Congress is going to ultimately make the decision. We can present the information and the arguments on both sides, you know, and then let the gravitational pull, and we can bring clarity to who all supports which position and who all supports maybe another position on a variety of complex issues. But that's the, you know, I think that's where our ability to reach resolution will end. And then we can say, okay, we've got these two schools of thoughts or these three schools of thoughts on different topics, not just carbon pricing. And that brings clarity. So it's not like this amorphous who thinks what and who agrees with what, but it'll be clear. And then those groups, as I see it, will go and continue their quest and their fighting and their lobbying for it. And everyone will fight for the things they believe in. And, you know, Congress will ultimately decide who's going to win those battles on policy. And this is very strategic, you know, so it's set up so that we can work together, even though we have differences on policy perspectives. And that is the overarching and most critical task ahead of us, because it's very easy to overestimate our own power on the policy front. We don't have ultimate power like that. What we do have is the ability to organize ourselves for collective impact, to force Congress to do something. And, you know, all the bills, none of the bills have, you know, they have, you know, the carbon bills got around 90 votes or so, maybe 100 now. Other bills only have 20 or 30. So we're really far from the goalposts. And that to me is an infrastructure and an organizing challenge, not a policy debate challenge, even though those will unfold. And CCL and I talked to Mark Reynolds and, you know, Jerry Hinkle, and they've, you know, corresponded after that they're excited. We had a deep conversations, Mark and I did. They're excited about this collaboration and the journey we're on. And so already we're doing the right thing because we're knitting together all these groups. And just think about it. CCL's team and Climate Reality Project's team on that Climate Reality Project announced spontaneously that they were going to lead, that they wanted to work on the Climate Congress idea. So Ken Berlin and I are already setting up another follow-up meeting, but he and Al Gore announced that on their call the other day. And that was very exciting to hear about, because right after the symposium, Al Gore is announcing Climate Congress. And just imagine there are 30,000 volunteers and all the Citizens Climate Lobby volunteers and all the United Church of Christ volunteers. And this, you go back and listen to the symposium, each group of these had lots of people to work with. And imagine when they're all lobbying on the same day, even if they're not lobbying for the same thing exactly. So that's where we're trying to go. We're trying to build a massive movement with all the pieces working together. And that's going to mean that we're going to end up at the end of this journey with disagreements on certain things. And that has to be okay. But there'll be clear disagreements and there'll be friendly disagreements. And we will make sure all the cases get made, all the arguments get clarified and drawn out so that people can really make decisions where they want to put their passions. So that's the journey. I think the MIT and Project Drawdown being in the mix and setting carbon greenhouse gas reduction emission targets and analyzing the impacts from the bills is going to give us great clarity and sort of an external expert that can give us feedback on this. Because it's hard, you know, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not obvious. It's complicated, like so many relationships. So anyway, I'm on a soapbox now about where we're going, just trying to keep us all together. I'll be quiet. Any other macro organizing observations, or are we on the right path here? We're making a pivot to a big new journey. And so we want to just make sure everyone who's new, that you will all feel welcomed. And I know it's hard in your first time here to say anything. And we also are going to have a little team meeting on Adopt a District at the end of this for people who can hang around. But are there any,
Yeah.
I always hesitate to open the door because we don't want to have policy comments, but are there any comments about where we're going as a group? And if you're new here, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, so one of the coalitions I'm involved with here in the Colorado area, we're in like week 3 or 4 of getting established. And the first thing that we as a group have been focusing on is, okay, we have 500 organizations here in Colorado. How do we actually meaningfully interact with one another and not talk past each other? So our first priority was figuring out a platform upon which we could all communicate. And so that one chose Slack. But as this coalition grows, we might need something a little more robust or refined than Slack. So anybody that thinks software or runs into organizing tools, keep that on. And then as we grow and as we onboard more organizations to the coalition, I think another thing that's important for everybody to kind of be thinking through is, what is the onboarding process for new coalition members? Is there like a welcome video? Are we saying, hey, these are the things that unite us together and everything else we can talk about, but this is the central thing that we're here because of? Because my concern is if we grow too quickly without having some kind of central value touchstone or onboarding experience, then there's so much disorganization within the coalition that we can't all move forward. So those are the 2 thoughts I want to leave everybody with, is like, what would the ideal onboarding experience look like? And think about when you first got involved with this group, like what was it that helped you stick around and be engaged? And how could we make that easier and smoother for other people? And then also the technology, what's the infrastructure? How are we actually going to connect and all that? And that's an ongoing process, but I think those are the 2 big things that will make other things possible.
Mm-hmm. Great. So Shannon, if you could be point on those topics,
Fun.
and you're going to join the little court, you're already on that. So that'll be your bailiwick, so to speak. One thing we're going to have to really do more of in our internal organization is come up with clarity about roles and responsibilities. I'm just nervous already about I'm used to, when we do things this big, there's usually a team. And so we have a team, but we got to be, we're going to have to formalize our work process, our meeting schedule a little bit more. We're going to have to get serious about this as if we haven't been. Anyone else with thoughts like that on this organizing moment we're having? Regina.
Yeah, actually, speaking of organizing, are you still planning to do something January 13th?
Oh yeah. So I know, and this is what's been hard in my brain, planning the future already. I am just not recovered from the symposium.
Okay.
That's what happens when you have a fixed schedule on the books. That's why you have fixed schedules on the books, because it forces you to keep going even when you're tired. So the thought was to try to do something. It's our regular general meeting on the 13th. So we'll have to figure out how to program that now. And I think this is where it already starts to become more work. I have to try to email the groups, the leaders that were on the symposium, and say, would you send your legislative directors to a meeting? Would that be a different time? Could any of you come and brief the community on, where you think things are behind the scenes and where you think they should go? We could ask for that kind of a briefing. It might be too soon.
Yeah.
We could also invite Cornelius, who does the co-ops, to come and speak about co-op organizing frameworks. It might be a little early. So, and again, we can start programming that points us in the right direction of where we are. There might be a little bit of duplication of this meeting and our general meetings for a moment as we're explaining all this and transitioning and building these other teams. And then they'll start to meet, and those teams will be reporting back probably at our general meetings over time then. And so that'll become our format, is like, what's the status and report backs on coalition front, on the process for bill drafting. And our meetings will just become report backs from our committees, I think. And then this core group team meeting will be those committees coming together like we've been doing before on all of our, and then just getting ready for the general meeting. And so I think the meeting schedule maybe can stay the way it is on that front, but then all the committees will have to have additional meetings. So the internal staff team, whatever we call that, and then these other committees will have their own meetings, hopefully all on Monday. We'll figure that out now that we have the email links, and we'll try to get those set up.
I have one comment. Shannon brought up that Colorado had 500 environmental organizations they're trying to bring together. New Jersey already has had for probably the last year a group called Empower New Jersey, which is about 80 environmental. It's all the environmental organizations in New Jersey. Many of them, probably most of them, well, the big ones are national in scope, but we do have a New Jersey focus for this group. I'm wondering if there are other states or regions that do something similar. If so, those big coalitions, the already regional coalitions, should be part of this effort.
Steve, so that's wonderful. That's exactly the kind of thinking that we need to delve into. So did you join the coalition team?
I did not, but I guess I should.
Sounds like it. That's exactly the kind of thinking and outreach plan that we need on the coalition team.
Greg, could you add my vote for yes for that, please? Steve,
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Great. So exactly, a coalition of coalitions is the vision. And we'll also, of course, have room for individual groups that aren't part of a coalition to be involved. And then, of course, individual activists. We might end up fielding them through the CCP framework, but we have to have those pieces, I think. And then we might, how to integrate, the big established groups, there might be multiple layers. We'll have to see how those conversations unfold. If Greenpeace and 350 say they want to have a level of coalition, fine, we'll just figure, and then we'll have interlocking circles somehow or another. There are ways to create different tiers, not of hierarchy, but, inclusion.
Paul Burke has had his hand raised.
Oh, great. Oh, if anyone else Shannon, if you could keep an eye on Stack. Gary's on Stack. Paul, go ahead, Paul.
I just want to say briefly that I think we need a far faster schedule than you anticipated, because in 2022, the focus will be on primaries and re-election, and very scary for members of Congress to do strong action. So we need to have action in 2021, and we need a bill by June and passage by December. I think those should be our goals. I
love it. All right, so I have no problem with that. I was trying to be a little bit giving my realistic time frame, but I love your thought process. I always faster. I mean, 2018, we put the idea of passing a bill by 2021 in motion, and no one was talking about federal legislation. Now we're in 2021. People are talking about passing a bill now. It's fabulous. It's going to be a challenge. Okay. So, Paul, could you volunteer for the current action, or which committee do you want to be on? We need you.
I put myself down for the legislative team.
Fabulous. Okay, good. So you can help drive a faster timeline there. It all depends, if we get 25 legislative directors or 10 of them, I could do it with 10 to agree to be on a team to review existing bills and et cetera, we could do something fast, but depends on how many people step forward on that front. All right, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a question I had, and it may be a longer conversation. I don't want to, because I know it affects how we keep a focus, but there have been a couple of comments in the chat about, the common denominator of our work being consistency with drawdown priorities and direct connection to decarbonization. But while, a lot of the attention's on policies to get at the hardware and structurally to get there, decarbonizing, we also need to socially get there. We need people needing to change their lives and literally survive these transitions and the harms to come along the way. And that means, policies like my proposal, which you mentioned at the outset, Todd, of having a health policy sector group, which isn't about carbon reduction directly, but about people's physical and emotional resilience and social wherewithal and connections to endure and to be around to shape the future and to pick up the pieces of these policies and make them real. And so to what degree are we thinking about the social capital as well as the physical and technical capital that we need to build and protect?
All right, so that's going to be your bailiwick. And
Okay.
you'll just have to figure out how to bring that conversation into the mix. I think it'll fit. And the coalition framework is, that can be, if it becomes a superstructure of civil society, it can, to work on legislation, policy changes, it can also be a backbone of social adaptation and, localized collective impact and a funnel system from the bottom to the top and vice versa. So
that'd be great. If that's welcome, then I'm all in. That's great.
And can I jump in an idea right here? Because as we're thinking about how to build social consensus and address things on an individual level, a friend of mine, Wanda Osterman, just joined us on the call, but she's listed as Shannon Bean. So there's now two of me, but the other one is her. She specializes in helping get pilot projects off the ground. And so the whole idea is that sometimes passing policy is really difficult, even at a local level. But if you can get local organizations around you, like maybe depending on what your project is, maybe like your botanical gardens or universities, things like that, you can actually go to them and say, hey, we want to do a 90-day pilot project for X, Y, and Z. And then that's actually a way to collect data that shows that whatever policy you're advocating for, this is an example of what it would look like if it did go through. And it's a really nice framework for bringing people in and helping unify people and give them like a project-based rather than like a very mental task that we sometimes get into with policy.
All right, interesting. So I lost the connection between beta project development and then that end of that thought. But does the beta project work? Where are you there? I saw your hand go up. Oh, there you are. Hi. Does that mean that you could give us input on this beta? It's not so beta anymore, but it sort of is. I don't know if you have thoughts about this process that we're embarking on. And
Sure, yeah, I've just been quickly reading and glancing over it, but here in Colorado, we have a lot of groups that are neighborhood sponsored groups called INCs and RNOs, all these acronyms I know, but basically we can get a lot of leadership going very quickly. And even though it may just be in this particular state, we can then send out that information to other states to quickly get them to be on board and do the same type of participation. I think the biggest part is having the connections with your legislators and being able to say, okay, this is working somewhere else. It's a successful thing. Let's get other people to do it as well, is really how we can pace this quickly. One of the things that I've been working on here a lot is what we call a 90-day challenge. And so basically each one of us is basically responsible for getting in front of one legislator and getting one pilot project off the road in 90 days. And then sharing with everyone else, how did we do that? What were the letters that we wrote? What was the campaign? Do we have PowerPoint presentations? Do we have a podcast we shared? Do we have, members that were partnered together from other nonprofits? And then really we can take that very quickly and just spread it through a lot of the communities once we know that platform works. So it's a 90-day challenge to us.
So, all right, well then, we already have those beta examples of our congressional adopted district teams. So you're talking about basically, so it seems like if you wouldn't mind joining that team, that would be fabulous. And then there's all sorts of core stuff there, but it needs to go to the next level. And now's the time. And there's some great examples that could be packaged and shared. And the Oregon team is, there's lots of great teams out there already. All right, wonderful. That's exciting. Do you mind joining that team?
No, if you can write me down because I'm Shannon right now. So please let them know it's Wanda Osterman, Osterman.
Wanda Osterman?
Yes. And you should have my email address because I did get some information from you, but I'll be glad to join a team and try to see if we can get this to spread. I'm also a former alumni, well, I guess you're still an alumni of Kiss the Ground. We did a lot of soil advocacy. I have a lot of members I can connect there. They have a new alumni group. I think anything and everything you have that you can share with me, we can get more people involved. Those people want to do projects, and some of them actually can find some funding to make it happen. So just please share some documents with me that I can share with them to get them involved as well.
Wanda, could you just put some things in the chat so we have a record of what you said?
Yes.
Great,
Your
thanks.
email, please. Somebody had their hand up. I just saw Catherine.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Todd. I just wanted to say, just to bring it to the fore, that if there was any one theme that seemed to come through in our events, it was the EJ community. We get the environmental community behind us and the frontline communities behind us, and it's going to be easy to move forward. So I just wanted to bring that to the fore. And the second thing I just wanted to say is as an observation, as you probably all know, this seems to be a very good evening for this discussion, because tonight is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And this has not happened in hundreds of years. So you may be able to see it better tomorrow evening at about 7 p.m. if you look to the southwest. But who knows if that means anything, or yes or no.
Mm-hmm. And the winter solstice, planting seeds and new beginnings.
Yep.
This is sure we're planting some major seeds, that's for sure. We'll see if we survive it. We might end up this beanstalk and find some giants up there. I don't know. All right, everybody. Who else? Any other thoughts? If you're new, please raise your hand. And if you'd like to say something, I see a lot of familiar names, so I'm not sure we're dealing with. But if you found your way to the symposium and now you're here. Oh, one thing that came to mind when Catherine said that is we're going to, and we want to double down on our Indigenous outreach. So I'm already setting up a meeting with Clyde and Roberto, and Lavona we're going to work to reach out to communities and invite them into the faith circle for now. But then also it'll be critical for the Coalition of Coalitions conversation that we have a representation there, because we want the process that we come up with to have that spirit in it. And so if you have those kinds of relationships, please use them and connect them to Lavona. Reach out to them. And yes, and Gina's talking about artists. Well, that reminds me of the marketing folks. Our marketing team has been meeting, and we're still in communication with Big Buzz. We're trying to figure out what kind of scope of work is possible for them. And in the meantime, there's been an idea floated of holding a hackathon, they call it, normally because it's designed to solve a computer problem, but they do them for other things. And this idea for this is to do it for marketing of the solutions, probably starting with the climate bill package and maybe some other macro issues, and having these weekends where the marketing association, the 4As is the Association of Marketing, would host it, and it would be a weekend long thing, and people from different firms could put together their own teams of creative and art, et cetera, and seeing what they come up with in terms of marketing. But once we have a bill and things like that'll be much easier. But that doesn't mean we're going to wait for the bill to get the juices flowing and trying to get the infrastructure going. Carolyn.
Sorry. So two things. One is, how are you differentiating the climate bill package from a new climate bill that you want to write?
Well, the climate bill package, is bills that are currently filed and hopefully refiled, and so they're active, and you can use them to go after co-sponsors immediately. So that's starts to call the question on all of those. I assume most of them will be part of the broader conversation, once that team is up and working.
Right. I'm just wondering, in terms of, I think it was Paul Burke who mentioned that there's no time to waste. I'm just thinking, do we need a committee focused on the climate bill package and how to organize a movement just for those bills on the immediate basis? When you talk about immediacy, that just seems to be like something that could be worked on right away.
Well, yes, and that's what the adopted district team will be doing.
Okay, so they're doing that. Okay, then my second thing was watching everybody in the symposium, and especially the big green leaders. Would it make sense to have somebody researching, and maybe this could be part of the Coalition of Coalitions group, which I'm now part of too with Shannon and others, if we should figure out what are their pet projects that they're already pushing with their members and all that, and how do we ride on that? Do you know what I'm saying? So someone needs to like figure out, everyone that came to the symposium is so valuable to us right now, and we have to keep that momentum going. Does it make sense to create kind of a laundry list of, here's what EDF is obsessed with, here's what Nature Conservancy, you know, like, so that we have all of that, and then we can work with that and use that, because it's already, that already exists too.
Well, that's the thing. So in our emails that have gone out to everybody already, they're like, they included the bill package and said, please forward any bills that you're working on. So part of the process of that team of hopefully legislative directors will be to collect current legislative initiatives.
Great.
And to report those out to the action team probably. Yeah.
Awesome.
Tara, did you want to say something?
Who? Go ahead.
I put myself in the stack because earlier, and this could already be on the website. Do we have sort of a written statement of what we will, like what bills would meet our requirements as you know, even if it's like a broad thing.
If you look at the 2020 bill package page, there's a little paragraph that talks about the criteria to evaluate them.
Okay.
Coalition backing, I forget what they all were. But we really worked on a consensus process. So that was interesting. So we have a loosey-goosey approach to that, keeping in mind that it's always up to the local groups, you know, it's to include or not include a bill in a package. Tara, were you able to did you see that email from somebody who wants to go see their congressperson in Illinois, like tomorrow, the next day, and needed somebody to go with them?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, I just got that, sent that to you today. So if you could, if you're available to help go into that meeting with them, I think that would be great.
I will check, but I also wanted to, somebody was talking about, there was somebody that spoke up that was a writer, and Gene Bundy talked about art. And if we had an outgoing, I know that there's someone else that's spoken about doing videography. I feel like if we had a communications team that's different from having ad agencies put together a big PR campaign, which is totally necessary, but there's also all these smaller parts that would be, they're not necessarily smaller, there's just additional things that we could add in that would be very valuable. So
well, look, tell me more about that whenever you're ready to think more about what that would look like. So the vision for the comms that I'm trying to get my head around is that I would like the groups that agree to work on the coalition or that become part of the coalition, once we get it, you know, parameters, there would be some agreements that any group who joins the coalition would agree to. One would be that we would collaborate across communications teams, that we build a network of communication teams. Another is that they would have their legislative or policy directors be on a committee. The one that they would designate a senior staff member to coalition work and coordinating that with their internal structures. So there's a lot to do there. I'm a little hesitant about a comms team of our own because I just don't feel like we have a platform for, you know, to make massive. I think all the groups are doing their own communications, and it's like trees falling in the forest when nobody can tell, there's so much noise. Until we all start speaking with one voice, at least occasionally, to me, all that's just background noise, even if we try to do it, which is why I don't put any energy and effort into that. But that I'm never saying no to anything, of course. So if there's a role it could play and help us do our work, particularly the adopted district or whatever roles you think it could play, we could totally have a team working on that. It's another thing that would require oversight and management. So if somebody is, you know, in that arena and wants to manage that, just let us know. I'm having to try to be very mindful of what I'm taking on. This is a lot. This is a lot, everybody. So, you know, we always reserve the right to scale it back. In 6 months, if we're all exhausted and depending on how things are going, this is not a lifetime commitment for everybody. And I'm saying that basically just because I need to know that it's not for me if I need to not do it all the time. But once I commit to something, It's what makes me nervous about this commitment. I'm like a dog with a bone, and we've already been on this journey already. So it's not like we're committing something, but it is a whole new level. So I'm really going to need to have roles and responsibilities and schedules. You know, we're going to have to professionalize this a little bit, which is something I don't even want to do because I like to work when I feel like it. But I feel like it's going to be necessary if we're going down this path. I want to introduce Andres too. Andres doesn't have a picture on, but we have a new intern joining us from Global Kids that Brenna's going to be working with directly. Andres, welcome. If you
Hello,
want to
nice
say
to
hi
meet
to
you.
everybody, if you'd like.
Nice to meet you all.
Great. He's being a little shy, it looks like, which is totally understandable because we're a friendly but intimidating group, I could imagine. Oh, there you are. Hey, Andres. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself and Global Kids? Go ahead, just your name, school, whatever you want to say.
My name is Andres Gil. I go to Biswa. It's Bronx Studio School for Writers and Artists. I'm a 10th grader in that school. And yeah.
Well, welcome. He's going to be helping us with mapping. Mapping is a big piece of all of this. You know, what groups are in which congressional districts, which coalitions are there, what areas do they cover? If anyone has any mapping, online mapping expertise, scientific expertise, or could look into it. We use it all the time when we're having nationwide events and actions and people are doing their local action. So there must be an automatic system where you type in an address or a zip code and it puts you on a dot on a page, and then how that translates into congressional districts. This is the expertise we need to dig up. So anyone who could, I see Sarah, but now your head is shaking. What do you know? Tell us.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. It's my first meeting. I'm happy to be here, and I studied geography, so I got some technical training in university in GIS and cartography, free and paid software. So I would love to help with that.
Ding, 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 ding. This is what we love. This is why we organize inclusively and openly. You just don't know what skills are going to show up. Oh, that feels like, early Christmas. Yay. So,
Can I
okay.
also mention there is a group that's doing this for Kiss the Ground. It is already on the ground being done. I think it's like Nerds of the Earth or something like that kind of group, but I can get some more information to you. It is being done through a lady called Kala Rose Ostrander.
All right. So Wanda, Sarah, can you put your email in the chat for me and Wanda? And can the two of you exchange emails and follow up? So we're going to be doing this sort of, we're going to quadrangle this. We're going to have our own little mapping process so we can keep an eye on our own team. And then we would love to just have people who want to take on this mapping project or already have the capacity to do it for the broader, at a higher level. So we'll see if we need ours or not, but if the two of you could work together, and then we'll interface with the faith team, and you want to stay in touch with Lavona, Grow, the adopted district team, basically, Tara, Lavona, Brenna, Cohen. Brenna, could you say hi so they can see you, Brenna?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sarah and Wanda. Wanda, would you also drop, actually, your email's already there. So Sarah and Wanda, I'm just going to reach out to you and to find out more about this and see how we can bring Andres in to help out with it. And also, if anyone who's a sector leader, if you have some projects, if you have some tasks on your project that you need help with, please let us know. I'll drop my email in the chat, and we're looking at some tasks that we can break down into smaller steps that Andres and I can work on. Thanks.
Great. So Brenna, Tara too would be good to check in with that. She would know all the tasks of the policy sector teams. They're still in play. And then Tara, how are we going to start collecting what's missing information? I think the super coalition, the policy people working on bill will deal with that, but we've gotten so much input. We want to have an input into that. So how can we collect that and put that all in one place? As the challenge that we have to figure out. We don't have to figure it out tonight. But just
Sorry,
model-
I was starting to look at the email that you had
Oh,
were referring to, so I like spaced out. So I don't know what you said.
Tara, no, I'm sorry. I meant to be talking to Christine anyway.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Where's Christine? Is she still here? Go back between pages.
Yeah, Christine is here.
Hi, Christine. That was
Hi,
all.
Todd.
That conversation was all for you. And I was looking at Tara. So anyway, Brenna to connect with Christine on the policy sector tasks. And then we just have to figure out how we're going to collect. I guess I have to write an email or I don't know. We need to have a meeting of the policy sector team leads.
It would be a good idea.
All right. Do you want to try to set that up?
Sure. Will
All
do.
right, and then we'll figure out how to get that information collected into one place. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Oh, setting up meetings is what I don't like to do anymore. I'm going to be doing a lot of it. Anyone else? So let's see what else.
It's like Hogan has
Covered
his-
everything. I think why. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who?
Hogan has his hand raised. Would you like to say something?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I have my video off because to keep it from bogging down. But first time on the call. Really excited to get involved with you guys. You were talking about with the mapping with congressional districts. We also, I don't know if this is possible, but we could reach out to an organization like VAN and see if we could get congressional district mapping from them. So that's a possibility too.
All right. So Hogan, can you put your email in the chat and then connect with Brenna and Sarah and Wanda? So we have a team on the mapping. This is very exciting. We need a mapping team. This is great. Yowza. I'm seeing thumbs up. All right. So yeah, guys, don't lose Hogan in this. Oh, Giovanni, I need a plug. Record. All right. Well, this is going really well. I've been like, nervous about trying to embark on this transition, but I'm glad we just seized the moment and people keep pushing me over the cliff. And so we keep moving forward. And we'll see where it all goes. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. And we seem to have the wind in our sails. As I said to the participants, we have the wind in our sails. Now we just need to build the boat and chart the course. Anyone else that's new that would like to say something? Sandy Schwartz, what do you got on your mind? You seem to have a lot of reactions. Let's see what you're thinking.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Something that keeps popping in my head is, and what I've been reading about is, Pete Buttigieg being in charge of transportation. And it seems to me that the administration is going to kind of utilize him as a platform to move things forward in a bring the country together way. So I'm wondering if we can piggyback on that momentum if that really does come to fruition. Build in the climate to whatever transportation infrastructure bills they're going to come up with.
Well, so it sounds like if you could join the immediate action, whatever we're calling that last group, that's where that kind of conversation fits. And there's also somebody who's very hot to trot on this idea of infrastructure, electric grid infrastructure through the highway system. And so they've already connected with Catherine, and they'll be in the electricity team. So, all right, that's where all that fits. The real trick with all this is, fitting all the different threads into some sort of grouping so we can manage all these conversations and all these thoughts. That's the real challenge we have. It's an organizing challenge, organizing the organizers, and without going off the rails ourselves. So, but that sounds great. And that thought's already entered my mind, And another piece I just don't want us to forget as we're looking at this, Saban drafted a bill, they're drafting all these bills and they're looking for guidance as to what bills to draft first because there's so many. So we'll bring them into that conversation of legislative drafting, but they've drafted this bill that would make it's for cities to put plugs on all the street lights, car charging plugs on the street lights. And so just think about something like that, Because if you build the infrastructure for the charging thing, then people are going to say, okay, now I can get one of those cars. But you got to sort of have the plugs there first, right? Or early. So maybe there are things like that people can get excited about. And, you know, maybe there are some immediate actions that we are not being showcased. And so, but again, that's a whole task in and of itself, but we'll have a system. All right, everybody, I think that's enough for tonight, unless anyone's new that has a burning desire to say something. Bravo again on the symposium. For the adopted district team, if you could just stay 10 more minutes. And we'll, anyone who is on that team, just bravo everybody again who worked on the symposium. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was quite a remarkable feat of coming together.
It was really inspiring and very interesting.
Thank you. Was that Merle?
Yes.
Hi, Merle. Any other thoughts about the symposium anyone wants to share quickly? Catherine, go ahead. You're muted, honey.
Thanks to you and everybody who worked on this. It was uplifting. It was great, beyond any known expectations. You were so gracious and you were a wonderful, wonderful host to this whole thing. And it was unbelievably wonderful. Thank you, Todd.
Oh, Catherine, thank you so much. Catherine kept pushing to make it happen. I was on the fence. And so it's all those pushing that help things happen.
Mr.
That's for
Todd,
sure.
I got
So
a
much
question.
people. Anyone else with a thought on it? All right, great. I know
I
we
got a
did-
question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Who's that? Is that Andres?
It's me, yeah. I don't know if you saw Jean Bundy. I think I said it wrong. Chat, but she asked if y'all could do like a art group.
Yes. So Jean, I think it's time for us to support your art group idea. I know you've been trying to get it going. It requires staffing. So whoever wants to start it needs to run it. But I know Andres, you draw, and so maybe that's a connection you can make with Jean and try to put some ideas on what that could look like. I think Jean has left us already.
No, she's still in the chat.
Oh, she is. Oh, still in the chat. Oh, good. So Andres, if you get Jean's email, she and I bandied about ideas. It's a complicated thing. There are organizations that are in this realm. So instead of us trying to do everything ourselves, we try to find the organizations to partner with, who can then, have a project based on the climate bill package, or certain solutions, or something that's germane to our work, that we don't have to do it all ourselves. So we're like getting other people to paint the fence is our strategy. Thanks for mentioning that though, and picking up on that. All right. Oh, there you are, Jean. Hi. All right. So real briefly, for people who want to stay on, we're just going to talk about the adopted district, process moving forward. Hi, Robert Schwartz, and who's that?
Hi.
Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi, how are you? Hey, so I just noticed in the chat here, I'm super interested about how food specifically and agriculture in general has an effect on all of this and the actions that we can take. And I'm having a hard time following in the chat on how to plug yourself into that.
Okay. If you put your email in here in the chat, Christine will add you to the farm sector teams.
Okay, thanks.
Great, wonderful. And anyone who wants to join a policy sector team, they're all the ones from the digest. Just let Christine Key know. You can, we have an intake form for that, but all right. So anyone else who's new, any last questions before we move on to just a little bit of work here? New people are joining. Oh, they've been here. There folks have been before. All right, so briefly on the adopted district. So now we've gotten ourselves in shape. We've expanded the team. We have Brenna. Thank you everybody else who's leaving, and we'll see you again. It's the first and third Mondays of every month that we have this call, and then Wednesday every other week is the general meeting. So everyone's welcome to these, and please bring your friends. All right. So the adopted district, we've done a good job. We've expanded it. And we've sort of gotten some clarity on roles and responsibilities. Brenna's going to be point on initial outreach. So she'll be monitoring the intake form on a regular basis and emailing the initial to-do list and copying people from the region that are covering the region. That's Tara and Merrill. And so Tara, we have that one Google Sheet now where I've put the different tabs. So one of the geographic regions doesn't have a name associated with it, I noticed. So we just need to go in there and figure out who that is. And I think as part of our journey that we're going to be on, we can, get more people covering those regions and hopefully state adopted and then a regional person on that front. And then Lavona is working on the faith liaison folks and is having her own faith team meeting. And they're going to delve into adopted district as a construct for them to organize around. We've gotten a new group of people who have offered to join that effort, which Greg, I guess, can send out to us somehow or another. And so you'll want to reach out to them. And I think this group, it would be good if it could set up a regular meeting schedule. And maybe I would go for a little while, depending on when y'all want to have it. Do you have thoughts about when that might work? Or do you want to wait and do that later by email? How would you rather do it? Schedule that. You want to wait and schedule it? Sounds
Who
like
was it? It was Tara and me and Brenna and Levant.
Lavonna. And then I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just there was a man still on. I was wondering if he wanted to be on it.
So we have a whole new list of people who signed up just now on the poll.
Yeah.
So Greg, how many names are on that? Do you know? Can you tell?
I don't know yet until I run a report.
So we don't have anybody right now, I believe, on the, I would love to shrink the number of areas that I'm theoretically managing.
Yeah.
Because it's insane. And so would Merrill. So is there anybody that signed up for this that lives in and is interested in taking over the Southeast?
Yeah. So
Or if you're on here and you can take something, would it make sense? Can we go through right now and just find out what parts we can give away to somebody?
Well, no. So if you want to volunteer for this work, we need you to sign up for the committee, and then the committee will meet. And then within the committee, you can do all this kind of delving out of roles and responsibilities. How's that? I mean, if anybody who's here is on the call still that is interested in that, I guess if you're still here, maybe you are interested. I'm not thinking clearly. So is anyone here wanting to take a more active role in this? Robert?
This is Robert. Yeah, I need to make more progress in my own district, but I am in the Southeast, and I don't know that I would want to take the lead, but I would certainly, want to help facilitate anything from, Georgia through Virginia.
That would be fantastic. I
And
mean,
if I make more progress, I've gotten great response, but I haven't fulfilled my end of going back to my representative yet. So I'm in the process of doing that. But
the idea would be that you would be a point person that people could contact and say, hey, I'm planning on going to see my legislator. I live in Florida and I'm confused about what to do. I can't find the forms, or they're asking me a question about this and I don't know, what it is, or can you check the spreadsheet and find out if there's anyone else that signed up for my area that might come with me? So it would be, you don't have to have, it's a never ending, it's a never completed process as far as reaching out to your legislator, because you're just basically trying to get into an ongoing dating situation with them. You want to be visiting them recurring. But we need more people to answer questions from people that are brand new to lobbying, or not brand new to lobbying, but are just saying oh, I lobby for 17 different organizations and I'll go, but what was it that I'm supposed to be talking about to this person? So
and Tara,
pretty new to it, and I've just gotten your videos and I haven't even,
Okay.
but I'd love to help any way I can.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like a soft maybe for now. But all right, so this is what we'll do in the committee too. So this is sort of like, is anyone else ready to take a little bit more active role in terms of helping?
I think I already did, but I'm not sure it doesn't say the district. This is Wanda. I did write that I am here in, the Colorado area, but I'm not sure how big my district is or what I got the email that said, these are the things I want you to do and blah, blah, blah. But it didn't say what reach I have, whether that's like the Rocky Mountains or just Colorado or anything like that. So maybe someone can clarify on that for me.
I think oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the states usually have a map with all the districts, the legislative districts broken up. And so you'd have to look on the map, Shannon, and then you'd see how big the district you say you'd take.
So, if you're reaching out, Shannon, like for going to visit your legislator, like you don't absolutely need to have, but it's very helpful to have a constituent be one of the people in the room to visit that legislator. So as somebody, you can visit your legislator, and then we're also looking for people to point people to like look at the other Congress people district in Colorado and say like, okay, well, I know somebody that I'm in this organization with, maybe they could visit that legislator. I could go with them, but they'll also get on the Zoom call with me, or they'll, come with me, because
it's kind of challenging with Denver being, even though it has changed a little, but Denver does have a strong mayoral system, which is very, very, very different than most places that you guys are reaching out to. I think I'm here with Congressman Lamborn. And when you think of Denver, it's so difficult because you've got the front line, which is like right against the mountains. Then you've got the prairies, which is completely different. And then you've got the suburbs, which are even more different. So really what we're focusing on would be important to know for this area, because I know certain people are going to give a hard no on some of this stuff right off the bat. But other people are going to be very excited. So that's why I was wondering, is there maybe a follow-up meeting with the people that are getting this leadership role? What are the priorities we're going to focus on for your district? Because otherwise we're going to hit our heads against the wall, and a lot of people won't be in this group in like 2 weeks because they'll just be so frustrated. So just kind of my input on that, and I would love to continue to take this leadership role on, but it's very different having a strong mayoral system.
All right, so let me just interject. So, because we're not going to go too much later tonight. These kinds of conversations we can have more in the committee. We're just trying to get the committee off the ground, find a meeting time for it. And just to answer your question briefly, we have a bill package. That's what we're asking everybody to unite around. It covers several topics. And that's a longer conversation. So I don't know if we want to try to schedule the meeting of this committee, or Brenna, if you want to do a doodle poll and figure out at that time later, which one of those two paths do you want? You have a lot of them here. It might be okay to get.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do this? I think I'm gonna just throw out a couple of options, and I don't have a doodle poll in front of me at the moment, but I'll just do this speaking, and go ahead and write in the chat if any of these three options work for you. The week, hang on, let me pull up a calendar.
Is it a weekly thing you want to do, or every 2
Well,
weeks?
I want us to, let's have a meeting first, and then from there we'll set how many times we meet.
Okay.
I think let's just get something on the calendar and let's all start talking.
Fabulous.
Okay, so thanks everybody for your patience on this one. So January, how is January? Okay. January 4th. Actually, Todd, let me just ask you a quick question. Do we want to, is it okay to schedule these on Monday nights, or do you want to keep that for core team meetings?
Well, if it's the first one, I don't see the core team meeting on the 4th. Why isn't it?
Okay.
Seems like we should have one on the 4th on the, I don't, it's not on my calendar. Oh, maybe I don't have the
My
core team.
calendar says the 11th.
Great. Okay, so
Wait, how did that-
first option is Monday night, January 4th, 7 p.m. Eastern.
No, Brenda, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that the first and third Mondays are taken for the core team. So
Okay.
4th and the
Greg
18th,
said
I
that
just don't have it on my schedule.
we have the 11th.
But we could do
So
it before, we could do it at 6 o'clock before the
No.
no.
I think we've got some people needing to do
All right.
dinner. How about Tuesday night, January 5th? So I'm going to throw out a couple of options. One is Tuesday, January 5th, 7 p.m. The second one is Tuesday or Monday the 11th. Greg, is that still open or is that a?
Yeah, the 11's fine.
Okay, so
What time?
7 o'clock.
That's EST. So
Yeah.
EST too. And then the third option would be Tuesday, or we could do Wednesday the 20th. Do we have a consensus? What have we got here? Monday's worked. Monday the 11th is ideal. All right, gotten 3 responses for Monday the 11th. Let's say our first meeting is Monday
Okay.
the 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Oh,
I have
6
a
o'clock.
conflict. I have a
You have a
conflict.
conflict? Okay.
Who has a conflict?
Robert, you have a conflict?
Yeah.
Well,
Would,
we won't get everybody on the first one. We can get it off the ball and then find another time when you have plus you're also going to have that whole list that you're going to get.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing right now, sorry, Robert, I'm seeing right now 5 responses for Monday.
Yeah.
Also, 2 votes for Tuesdays. Why don't we start with Monday? And then we'll see from there if we need to shift it to a different night. And Robert, we will keep you in the loop. We'll have some notes on the call and share them with everybody on here.
All right.
Sound good?
Fabulous. And Greg, if you could send a list out to me and Brenna, the poll results.
Mhm.
Me and Brenna. I think that's all we need for now. And I'll try to get those other committees initiated. All right, how exciting. Very exciting. All right, so that's done. Lavona, did you have anything you want to touch base with about and Adam, I just want to welcome you. I see that you're here from Our Revolution. Do you want to say hi and any thoughts about your group and you're finding your way here? Any thoughts?
Well, just solidarity, and my congressman is a bit of a progressive blue dog, so creates some problems, and I don't have the best relationship with him, but because I ran against him, they threw me off the ballot, but I talked some smack while I was doing it, and he's a little sore about it, even though he got 99.9% of the vote.
Well,
But,
the trick is to find, then you need agents, other agents in your district to carry forth the climate bill. I'm very good at this. I used to know who I didn't, I should not ask for things. And when it was time to find, the front person.
Yeah, no, we already been working with National Nurses United. We already came up with another co-organizer in our Revolution group, Matt Muchowski, who comes from the labor movement and stayed officially neutral in the congressional brouhaha.
And remind me what Our Revolution does again. I feel like I know it, but I can't get my head. I can't place it.
What, Our Revolution?
Yeah.
Well, we came out of the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016, so it was the idea of keeping the campaign going, keeping the issues alive. But we had a big brain and talent drain when Bernie ran again. So like we had Nina Turner running the organization, and now she went off to join Bernie's campaign for 2020, and now of course she's running for Congress. But we have other people who stayed behind for various reasons and didn't jump on the campaign trail.
And y'all are working on policy?
Correct.
Okay, very exciting.
Well, we work with the Climate Mobilization Group and National Nurses United right now, and I'm part of DSA also. I'm also a township trustee. So
Where in Illinois are you?
Lake County, just over the in the south end of the county, but I organize all over the county. I'm actually on the board of the state organization too, so I organize all over the state. I work with people all over Illinois.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois also.
Whereabouts?
DeKalb, that's District 16.
Yeah, I had a debate out there with the Federalist Society. We talked about Medicare for all. That was good times.
That must have been an interesting little party. Meryl,
It's on
you both
YouTube.
I'm sorry?
It's on YouTube.
Oh, good. Now you're both in Illinois, and somebody wrote me yesterday asking for help going to Illinois to a congressperson there to lobby for the bill package. So Meryl, you're conversant in the bill package. Tara, did you get that email? It would have been from me, I think, replying to him, but
Yeah, no, I have the email. I responded to them with my availability, but I didn't have a chance to look up yet what part of Illinois they're from, but it would be great to have somebody else that's from Illinois go along. Meryl, did you get that email or not?
No. Can you copy?
Okay, I'll send it on to you, Meryl, and
okay.
And Adam, if you drop your email in the chat, then I can send it to you too.
Sure.
And so the bill, that meeting looks like they're talking tomorrow. So Meryl, I think you and Tara know the bill package. I'm not even sure I recognize the name of who's doing that.
Can I cut in, because I see that Lavona's like about to leave, and I tried to get a Google Notes. I tried to get a Google form together to take information from people when they go on lobbying meetings, because I would really love to see just basic information like which bills they talked about, because I know that people had very different feelings about. A lot of people felt like there's no way that I can talk about 10 bills, or there's no way that my congressman wants anything to do with this, 5 of them, or these 2 of them, or I won't talk about them. So I would love to get that form up and going, but people have expressed some reservations about that. I thought, let's just get it going and then edit it, after it's up if we're not happy with it. But if there's things I'm not seeing about why that's a bad idea, then I'd love to hear that. And if not, I would love to know how to migrate that into the package that's coming from Climate Crisis Policy.
Where's the link to that?
I just mailed it around. It's in my Google Forms. So
put it in the link here. And so how do we get closure on this? I think that's what the meetings are for. Y'all team could get together and figure it out. And
okay,
it's just because we're not meeting, I think that's fallen through the cracks, and people wanted to have input. And so I don't think it's a long process, but it's going to require a meeting, and you're looking at it all together in the same.
Okay.
You could try to do it now, but I feel like it's too late to do that now.
But I'd be real happy to take a look, since we've done that with USJ, kind of look through it with that lens on. And so with the link, I'll take a look by tomorrow afternoon.
And then Mona, could you call Tara and y'all do it over the phone instead of by email?
Whatever, yeah.
Well, just because those long emails about what needs to be, unless it's like
if there's like things that need to be tweaked.
Yeah,
whatever needs to be added, et cetera, just work it out together on the phone a little bit and then circulate a more final draft, and we can all take a last look at it and get it done. Does that work?
My cell phone in there, you can text me, or we can figure out a time once we
okay. Who else wants that? Who else wants that information? Who else wants to look at it?
I'll look at it if you want more input.
Yeah, send it to Brenna and Meryl, and just the 4 of you is enough, I think, to get that off the ground.
And then we'll
You don't have to make it too complicated.
somebody to test run it afterwards, to go through it.
The Google Forms work easily. They work automatically. but we could do a test run. Y'all can work that out.
Okay.
Always need to. Mhm.
And you're using Google Forms, right? That's what I usually use, and it's easy. Okay, yeah. Easy to edit. You can work on the document together even. All right, that's wonderful. I know that was a hang up that we were trying to get done. Yay.
Thanks.
All right, I think that's everything for tonight, huh?